three angels that is found in Revelation chapter 14, 6 through 12. Here it says, and we are warning the world, and we have to educate the peoples about God's true Sabbath and the seal of God. And so here, Satan is a master counterfeiter, and so he said, I will be like the Most High. And God has his day, and Satan has his day. And there's some strange things has happened since 1973. I still have the article where purposely, and people was wondering how they was going to do it, to move Sunday from the beginning of the calendar to move it to the end of the calendar. And they came out in the paper that they was to move the holidays, all holidays, and move them to Monday, to give the peoples a long holiday weekend, they said. But that was going to be official the first day of the week. So Sunday will be the weekend, part of the weekend. Before then, we know that Sunday was the beginning of the calendar, Saturday was on the end of the calendar, the S and the S. But then after they said, well, how can you move a holiday like Lincoln's birthday from the 12th, and people don't even know what day is actual birthday, you know, and also Washington's birthday and others, but they make them all fall on a Monday, holidays and all. So now, with the days of the week, when you watch the meteorologists, they'll say a 7-day forecast, and they'll light up Saturday and Sunday the weekend. So tomorrow, which is Sunday, they will be very clear, giving the forecast from Monday on. They said next week starting Monday. Now Monday is already the second day, but they always say next week. Next week, tomorrow, Monday will be this and that and other. But, and this is disturbing to me, because how subtle they coming in. And the people are going to get angry with us because they say, it's the weekend, so what? So what? It's the weekend. Everybody knows Sunday's the weekend. But see, the enemy has been, bringing this in subtly, and now the world is accepting it. And so I just brought that up. I jumped a little ahead to say that from one of the later ones. But
that's a good point.
So here, and the third angels followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hands. We understand that God has a seal that he's putting in the forehead, right? And so here we are to study that tomorrow about the seal of God, the mark of the beast, and the counterfeit mark of the beast. So here are the two beasts of Revelation 13. We'll start off with Revelation chapter 13, start at verses 11. John said, I saw another beast coming up out of the earth. He had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, right? Now, who is the dragon? We all know who the dragon is. Satan, because we find in everything from God's word, and I know I'm looking over it.
No, I'm sorry.
So we know who Satan is, who the dragon is, because we go back and find it in the Bible, God's word in Revelation, the 12th chapter, verses 7 through 9, and verse 9 says, that old serpent. And it speaks about the dragon from 7 on, because that was war in heaven. And it speaks about the dragon fought, and it was the war. It started off there, 7, and then go to 12 and 7. Yes. It says, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angel fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angel. So we know who the dragon is because he goes on and says, and prevailed not, neither was there place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out. And who is that? That old serpent called the what? The devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angel was cast out with him.
A third of the angels. Wasn't it a third of the angels?
Yes, a third of the angel was cast out with him. So what we're looking at is the fact that the dragon is the devil. And so now, when we was reading that this beast that come up out of the earth, he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And I see that they have 13 and 1 there. It's supposed to be 11. So that's underneath the writing there. So that's 12 and Revelation 13 and 11. And so I did this first time I seen the mistake there, but it's supposed to be 11. And so here, this beast that came out of the earth, we'll identify that beast shortly. But this is oh yeah, that's correct. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead trying to make up some time, and I'm wrong. This beast is correct. That's the first beast from Revelation 13 and verse 1, and that is correct, because that's the papacy. The beast that I was quoting, Revelation 13 and verse 11, it says, I saw another beast come up out of earth. He had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And notice what it says about this two-horned beast here now, because we will be identifying this beast. Look what it says in verse 12. You see verse 12? And it says, and he exercised how much power?
All the power.
All of the powers. That's Revelation 13, verse 11 and 12. And verse 12 says, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So this is the second beast that came up, and he's going to cause the world to wonder after the first beast, who had received a deadly wound and it was healed. You see that? So we'll identify the second beast shortly. Let's go back to the first beast there. We're going to go back to, that's the first beast. And that we'll find Revelation chapter 13 verses 1. With your notes, you can put out Revelation chapter 13 verses 1 through 10. And we'll find that beast that came up out of the sea, he had 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. His feet was like the feet of a bear, and his mouth was as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. We need to identify this because Revelation 14 and verses 9, warning about the beast. We need to know about the beast and understand what this beast represents. And so Revelation 13 and verse 1, as it began with the beast coming by, and notice here now, 13 and 1 is start off speaking about after this beast came up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Notice those 10 horns. The 10 horns, and as it goes forward to verse 2 says, and the beast which I saw was, now he's giving a description of him. The beast which I saw was like unto a what? Leopard, and his feet was as the feet of a bear, and his mouth was as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon, and that's the devil, gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. Now this is what we're looking at, what John saw is in reverse order of what Daniel saw. Because what John saw was way into the future from Daniel. Because God told Daniel to seal the book till the time of the end. Once it's open, you'll find that this composite beast has the same, it represents the same of the four beasts of Daniel 7. And let's back up now. Let's go to, so that's the 200 beast that caused the world to wonder after the first beast. Now, Daniel 7. Daniel, the 7th chapter, and this is speed forward. You can read it. The 7th chapter of Daniel, you'll find that he had a dream, and he saw these four beasts, right? And the beast that he saw, it goes on there at it starts off with verse 1. There it says, go to verse 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strode upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverged from one another. They was different. The first one like a lion, right? And forgive me because I'm moving forward, but the first one was like a lion, and it gives the description. But right now I want you to understand what John saw. He saw this beast that had 10 horns. He had the body of a leopard, his feet like a bear, and his face like a lion. This composite beast. Notice how it backs up. Here, when he says that the lion was the first beast. And then he goes on second beast, verse 5, and behold another beast, a second beast like a what? Bear. A bear. And this is a bear, and that's what John saw. The second part that he mentioned about the feet of a bear. But it go on where it says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a what? That verse 6. Verse 6.
Like a leopard.
Yes. 6. And that's like a leopard. And then it goes on, look at verse 8. It mentioned about the horns here. And the horns, and it goes on about the horns. But if you read the story here, you'll understand a little bit more, because we understand that horns in Bible prophecy denotes what? Power. Yes. And so here I just backed up just to show these four beasts here. The lion, the bear, the leopard, and the nondescript beast had the 10 horns, and then and John says that they had 10 horns. Then he says that had the body of a leopard. Then he went on down and said the feet of a bear and the face of a lion. And Daniel saw it in the other order. He just says that the first one was, because that's the way it came up. Babylon, Medo Persia, Greece, and Rome. These are the world kingdoms. And one rising up and destroying the other one. And he comes all the way down to the fourth beast. I just want you to see that these four beasts, but when Daniel saw it, when John saw it, remember that these kingdoms has already disappeared. And that was the Babylon, Medo, Persia, Greece, and Rome. So here, that beast that had the 10 horns, we know that pagan Rome. And that was pagan Rome that had the 10 horns, right? And when pagan Rome split up, they didn't have another, no other kingdom came and overthrew Rome. It fell down from within. We find that it had 10 horns. That was 10. Look, they divided up into 10 kingdoms there. And yes, and we had the 10 there. And I'm sorry, I'm just jumping ahead because I want to get to the beast and the two. So here, but that's right. That's the one that had the 10 horns, and it was when it fell in 476 A.D. that was east and west of Europe. And here the little horn, according to Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25. But before we get to 25, I would like to mention something here, because we was talking about beasts in Bible prophecy. And look at verse, I believe it's 17. And we'll find that these great beasts, and this is the interpretation according to verse 16. I came near unto one of them that stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the what? The interpretation of the thing. These great beasts, which are four kings which shall rise out of the earth. So we know that, and look at verse 23 there. It says, thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the what? The fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break in pieces. And so we know that that was pagan Rome. And then we go to verse 25, and then it says, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall do what? Subdue 3 kings. He destroyed 3 of the kingdoms, right?
Yes.
Now, this little horn, as you study the story, and I wish I could spend a little bit more time on it, but here the little horn that came up and uprooted 3 of them. And these 3, we know that the 3 kingdoms that it destroyed is nowhere to be found now. And that little horn, according to verse 25, he shall, verse 25, and verse 25 says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given unto his hands until a time and the binding of time. So here the great words against the Most High, and this power claimed to be God on earth, the vicar of Jesus Christ. And here the able to forgive sin and many things, and change it. God says, I will not alter or change nothing that goes out of my mouth. And yet this power claimed to have changed God's commandments. And we know which one that he claimed to have changed. And that was a purpose reason he changed the second about the images. And also the 4th commandment. And I'll keep holding the Sabbath day, but don't say which day. And knowing that all the world going after the first day of the week. They are keeping the first day. And God said, remember. When God says remember, we better remember it. And so here, this power will think to change times and laws, and it will wear out the saints of the Most High. And how many years, and I'm skipping forward, how many years did this power rule? Because once it destroyed those 3 kingdoms, and that was official in 538 A.D.
1,260 years.
How many?
1,260.
1,260 years. That's how long that this power ruled and wore out the saints of the Most High. And that was from 538 A.D. down to 1798 A.D. So here, and he ruled during the Dark Ages. We call it the Dark Ages. And that's when Napoleon sent Berthier down into Rome and put the Pope in jail. Captured him and put him in jail. So I'm saying this because when we go back to Revelation chapter 13 and from 1 through 10, that covers the papacy. It changed from pagan Rome to papal Rome. And it ruled from 538 to 1798, and in 1798, when Napoleon sent Berthier down into Rome and put the Pope in jail, and so Revelation 13 and verse 10, let's go there. Revelation 13 and 10, because this chapter from 1 through 10 deals with the papacy, and it will wear out the saints of the Most High. And 13 through 10, we'll find it says that he that lead, well, 9 and 10 says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall what? Go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saint. The Catholic Church received a deadly wound at this time, and that Vatican City was taken from the Catholic Church, and it was taken, and it was not given back until the year 1929, the Latin Treaty. So you see how that period of time, it was not. We see that. Now I want you to see something now. Bring you up. We walking down through history now. And let's see where we are now. Now, when I mentioned 1929, that was between 1798 and 1929. I mean, the time that he was not. He had received a deadly wound. And I want you to see something here. We was taught in school who assassinated President Lincoln.
John Wilkes Booth is the one we commonly say.
Now,
There are a lot of Catholics in it.
who? No. Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln. Who assassinated Abraham Lincoln
They say,
at the end of the Civil War?
they say it was John Wilkes
John
Booth.
Wilkes Booth.
They say it was John Wilkes Booth.
Yes.
But he had help.
Well, see, we were taught that in school.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to school with you. And you heard that
Yeah.
in school. And we all were taught this. But that is not the complete story.
Right.
Exactly.
We have learned since then that at that time there were some Jesuits. They had trained these men to come and assassinate President Lincoln, and they hated our Constitution.
Yeah.
Some
And
of
so,
them were
here-
already in the government.
What?
Say that again?
Some of them were already in the government.
Yes, they had already infiltrated, and they was here. And what happened was, the first, well, John Wilkes Booth, he was the one that was arrested. And that's all that they told us in school. But there was 8 conspirators. There was 8 that was participating in the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. The others 7 escaped, and they went through Canada, and they went all the way to Rome. The United States knew who was behind this.
Yes, of course.
And they was angry because the Catholic Church, the United States is supposed to be a Protestant nation.
Yeah.
The protest won against that power. And so they hated this country as far as our Constitution. So when they assassinated
They said
Lincoln,
7 or 8 men.
our country, because of some of our president has already warned what was going on
Obviously went to Canada
behind
or
the
something.
scene. Then when they arrested them in Rome,
Talking about
they swiftly, they didn't waste no time.
assassinated.
They had
President
a
Lincoln, but the
tribunal,
papacy
a
was
court. They found that 8 of them, they had John Wilkes Booth, and he was one that they had to hang for the crime. Then the other 3, because there was 4, that was to receive death. And then the other 4 received long prison sentences. So you'll find that one was a lady, a woman, Miss Surratt. She was the first woman was executed in this country. She was one of the conspirators, her and her son,
Mrs. Rock.
Surratt. Yeah. And they had and you'll find that also in the Great Controversy illustrated version. And here, her and her son housed them in their house. So then they had to, her son and her and two others was hanged. That was 4 of them. The others received long. So let me read this to you. And remember, that was right at the end of the Civil War. And I'm just showing you since 1798 to 1929, the United States cut all ties with the Catholic Church.
What year was that?
That was in 1865. When they, okay, it says here, President Lincoln, well, it says Abraham Lincoln, elected to the presidency of the United States in 1860, brought the country through the greatest crisis in its history. The records of the court proceeding on the assassination of Lincoln proved he was murdered by Roman Catholic conspirators, 4 of whom were hanged for that crime, and that was in 1865. Next, you'll find, and this is I've taken, you see what paper I taken this from? And also you find in the Great Controversy, but look what it says in the USA Today's paper in 2001. It says here that 8 with comparison ties, just what we just finished reading, as co-conspirators in the assassination of President Lincoln. After a 50-day trial, a panel of 7 generals and 2 colonels found all the defendants guilty. Results: 4 were sentenced to death by hanging, the 4 others received long prison sentences, and the hanging took place less than 3 months after Lincoln was killed. And so you see that then the United States officially cut their ties. They didn't cut their ties with the Roman Catholic Church until 1867. 65 when he was assassinated, and that's when they hanged these men. And then they went on to 1867, and then they officially cut all ties with the Catholic Church. And then watch this now, because you'll see how the deadly wound is healing. Now, let's move on. Now remember President Reagan.
Oh, yes.
And remember John Paul II.
Hollywood actor.
They both received a wound within months apart.
Yeah.
They were shot. And when they had to heal from their wound, then they became, and remember, these are the 2 powers in Revelation 13. Because
Yes,
now,
sir.
don't forget, I'm jumping a little ahead now, because the first beast covers Revelation 13 verses 1 through 10 after the captivity, and then they gave it, the Catholic Church gave them back the Vatican City, and then we still didn't have no ties with the Catholic Church up until President Reagan. That's why when President Kennedy was wanting to become the president,
Yes.
they were frightened because he was a Catholic.
But you know what? They put him out too.
Yes, yes, because some things
Papacy
had to
had
take
correct.
place, and when
Yes.
right after the Bay of Pigs and certain things took place, he was ready to dismantle
The
this
CIA.
yeah,
He wanted
the
to get rid of
CIA and all,
yeah.
and so they killed him. I think it
Yeah.
was the very day before he was supposed to be doing this.
Seems to me America had a little too short-term memory about Lincoln. Because all that stuff happened since
Yes.
then, you know?
Yes,
They forget very quickly.
and now they don't teach a lot of things when we came through school.
I know.
No. And so here, I want you to see something. Now, after they was wounded, then they became the best of friends. These 2 powers, just like the Bible says,
Brought
that
them together.
in verse 12, that the 200 beasts will cause the world to wonder after the beast, the one that received the deadly wound, right?
Right.
Now, the United States, which was President Reagan, what happened before they joined forces, President Reagan went to the Pope. They had a meeting, and they discussed the Cold War. and what was going on behind the Iron Curtain. And President Reagan wanted to get intelligent information in Russia and around the world behind the Iron Curtain. What happened is that John Paul II told Reagan, he said, because they have Jesuits and the leaders around the world in all countries of the world behind the Iron Curtain and everything. They are in the government and everything. And the United States knows this. But we can't get there without some type of inside source.
We still got them in our government too.
Yes. The government. The
We still got them in our government?
yes, it's we still have them. They are here.
In
Now,
churches, in
and-
Adventist church
Who
too?
are they?
Well, yes,
Vice
it's been
President.
Just
infiltrated.
government,
Vice
strategic
President
people in the
Calvin
government
was
that are
one.
still pulling the strings.
And so we know that what happened here.
I don't know.
Get the
names.
picture now. President Reagan, once he approached John Paul II about intelligence, John Paul II says, you don't have ambassadors. We have no ties together. Been cut ties since 1867. So in order for us to give you and share this information, even though you're in the middle of the Cold War, we want you to join back with us and send your ambassadors. We need an ambassador to the Vatican from the United States. That's the only way we can join.
Baby Beach.
That's where Poland came in.
That's what I'm ready to say. You took it out of my mouth. Poland, Lewinsky, what is his name? Underground. They were selling weapons
Oh, yeah.
to those, and all this stuff was going on. And Reagan was doing this underhand for Poland because of the communists that are controlling Poland. And that's where John Paul II was from. And so then they decided, President Reagan joined forces. So we protested at the time. And I say we because we sent letters around, this letter relating to not to send an ambassador to the Vatican. But it didn't happen. It happened.
It happened
In 1984, they sent the ambassador William Wilson. He was the first ambassador to the Vatican. And so after they sent William Wilson in 1984, it was about a year or two later, communist Soviet Union was breaking up because the work was done, and now they had came up with a plan. And so to show you how the United States and the Catholic Church became the best of friends. You see how this country had fled away from Europe. And if you study the 12th chapter of Revelation, you'll see what happened. How they fled, and the earth helped the woman. And so when she fled from Europe. So now President Reagan and the Pope, they became, and now watch this. This is what they call the Holy Alliance.
I thought that Unholy Alliance was in 1982 when they made
No,
a country.
this is when they was coming together, but they didn't get there. You look it up. They did not receive the ambassador until 1984.
Okay.
Okay.
1984.
Poland was wanting unions.
Say what?
Unions.
Yes, the Union. And if you'll pull up William Wilson, you'll see what year that was.
Okay.
And then after that, then the Holy Alliance, they had the solidarity, the movement. You'll see what happened then. Let me move on.
Did they make that concordate in 1982? In 1982, did they make that concordate?
I
think they made that promise then.
yes. That was when they made commitments and stuff, because they had been working it out.
Okay.
Right.
And that's what they was doing then.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what made it official. This take
First
because the
ambassador.
Vatican City look way into the future, and they know, so they don't just do something this quickly. And so here, watch this now. In Revelation 13, the Bible predicts an alliance between the United States and the Vatican that will ultimately lead to the enforcement of the what?
Mark of the beast.
Mark of the beast. These are the two powers now. Now, don't miss this now, because I'm telling you, it's hard to bring this back up, because you're going to see how this thing come together now. In Bible commentary 9:10, it says here that Protestantism shall give the hand of fellowship to what power? And you know it was wrong, it was against the law for the Catholic Church, anybody in the Catholic to hold an office way back. And now
They're all in it.
and they
Especially
want the
Supreme
Catholic.
Court.
Wait,
Yeah. Our country.
it was
Against the law for any Catholic to hold office in our country.
I thought I'm not, I'm just asking, I thought one of the main provisions is that we should not have a test question of religion.
Right. That's supposed to be in our Constitution. No respect, and we don't supposed to have no
Establishment clause and
yeah, that's in there.
Religion
But let me tell you,
and political
I want to know,
they know how to get around stuff.
yeah.
Just like slavery.
Yeah.
And they knew that to let a Catholic in.
Yeah.
Because I wondered if we knew all this history, I've wondered why we just didn't write the Constitution to say, don't let the Catholics come over here
Yeah,
and destroy us.
exactly.
But
I
God,
wondered that.
With you
but
there.
God, in His mercy and grace, we must obey Him by faith.
Yeah, that's
Not force.
not
Right. And He don't put everything out there because
Right.
we got to trust.
Don't want to throw your
Right.
pearl before swine.
Right. So we have to work out our own soul salvation with fear and trembling. We have to, and so He has to guide us.
Yeah.
But they were cautious about it. I've thought
Oh,
of
yes.
that,
Oh, yes.
Elder Irving. I've wondered if they knew the history, why they didn't do something.
Sure.
Yeah.
But they warned us about the thing, and we'll get there later. But what happened is that in slavery, they supposed to abolish slavery, right?
Right.
But no.
Y'all
They got
waited
some
around
clause
things.
there left there
I know. You're
for the
right.
future.
Okay.
They can put you in slave. You can become a slave if you violate certain laws.
It's on the books.
It's on the books, and I have those where you can pull them up. Now, let's follow this now, because I want you to get the real picture now. That's why I didn't rush through it. Listen, some things look like I'm just spending a lot of time talking at first, but I did that purposely because these things were
Laying the groundwork.
reinforced.
Yeah.
Yes. So watch this now. Protestantism shall give the hand of fellowship to the Roman power. Then, look at that big word, then. I won't explain it too much now. But then, there will be a law against the Sabbath. See, this got to come first. Then there will be a law against the Sabbath of God's creation.
Yes.
Look at the word again. And then it is that God will do His strange work in the earth. He had borne along with the perversity of the race. He had tried to win them to Himself. But the time will come when they shall have filled their measure of iniquity. And then and that's the word again, and then it is that God will work. This time is almost reached. Now, later on, you're going to see how each one of those thens is linked. And we'll see where we are with the thens.
Yeah.
And so we are right on the threshold. Now, get this now, because you're going to see now what is going on with the Catholic Church, Protestant, the whole works. Put in our minds, remember Revelation chapter 17, verses 1 through 5, and dealing with the woman that rides on the scarlet-colored beast, right? The woman that rides on the scarlet-colored beast, remember, a woman in Bible prophecy, a virtuous woman is God's true church, right? A harlot, and this harlot in Revelation 17, she has daughters. And these daughters ran away from their mother.
Mother, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're going to come back. And they're going to beg to come back home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come back.
Come back to mama.
This is
Yes.
what he's talking about.
So watch this now.
Mother.
Watch how this is being made now.
Yes.
Now remember yesterday I said, watch these dates around 2004, 2001, and on to where we are now, because all of these things were put in place. Watch this now.
Revelation 17:5.
What date is that, people?
November the 20th, 2004.
That's 2004. 2004,
A
it
Saturday.
said Catholic joined ecumenical group. It took taking the Catholic about almost 5 years to join with the Protestant.
It's on a
The,
Saturday.
the nation Roman Catholic bishops have given their blessings.
For the first time.
This is for the first time. You see what group? Catholic, Evangelical, Mainline Protestant, Orthodox, Christian around a common table for the first time now. And then you go on down, watch this. It says organizers hope to have the new group off the ground by next spring. Next spring from that, and they call once member churches from each of the 5 families. They call them families. Catholic, Evangelical, Protestant, Historic Mainland, Protestant, Black and Hispanic, and Orthodox. Sign on.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's not Protestant.
Now,
Protestant.
watch this now, because the Catholic Church is shrewd. They would not join with them unless they made a commitment to the Catholic Church. This commitment, and that date there is what date?
Saturday,
Oh,
This is May.
2005.
21st.
It's taken them 5 years. They have been working for 5 years to bring them on, because you know the sticking point was Mother Mary, a Virgin Mary.
Oh, brother.
They said that she was the mother of God and that she went into heaven bodily.
So
And that
basically,
we-
she takes place of the Holy Spirit, kind of, right?
And she's replacing them. And yet we are to pray. She is to pray. We are to pray to her. Now,
Boy, they're breaking a lot of rules.
so the Protestant churches could not accept this at first.
A lot of ones that
The Anglican church.
Think what?
But the Catholic Church would not join with them unless they acknowledge this. It took them 5 years, and finally they said, well,
Took 5 years.
yep. They said they don't see no reason why they couldn't join with them, because there's nothing in the Bible says not to. So that's the only way and so once they made the confession and decided to join with the Catholic Church, then, and see, that they say it's here in the article about the 5 years, right? You just read it, right? About,
Yes, sir.
yeah. Now,
Pastor,
yes.
if we back up a little bit, when Reagan and the Pope got together, and the Polish were rioting, wanting,
Yes. Mhm.
wanting the unions in there,
Yeah.
that's when the German wall came down.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was in
yeah.
'89.
That was all worked out together
Berlin Wall came
between
down.
the Polish, the Catholics and the
Catholic.
Americans.
Right. All of them.
And they knocked the wall down and it became Germany instead of East and
But
West.
they had the east and west, and they had the wall there, and so they brought it down, and you had from 1984 when William Wilson and they've been to work on it until 1989. In 1989, everything started crumbling,
Yeah.
and then all the Soviet Union, all of the different ones breaking away. Then they tore down the wall, and the Berlin Wall, and all these things happened, and that was the result of the Union. And Sister White says that is because of the Union. The Union will be one of the agencies that will cause a time of trouble that this world have never seen before.
Yeah, it is part of it. Or
Yeah.
It has been part of it.
Right. And so you see where, now, watch this now, right, at the 2005, and just watch how 5 years they worked on this part of joining the Protestant with the Catholic. Watch what it says here. And that was it says, today the descendants of those faithful martyrs have forgotten why they call themselves what? Protestants.
Protesting.
Consider the following. It is time for Protestants to go to the what? Go to the what?
The shepherd.
The shepherd, the Pope, and say, what do we have to do to come home?
Oh,
No.
that was wrong.
That's
Shoot.
crazy.
That was
He's a
Robert
Protestant.
Schuller.
Back during the Dark Ages, they ain't no telling how many Protestants they killed
Yes.
Catholics.
It was millions.
Yeah,
You're looking at millions and during the Dark Ages.
Mhm.
And my sister came from over, she was looking at the catacombs and stuff where they were burying them underground. I have been over to Rome and I went into the Colosseums and stuff and here where they used to throw them into the lions, the animals and stuff.
And all you countries over there, Hitler, Stalin, and all them, they didn't believe in God or God,
Yes, yes,
and that's why they killed their own people.
yes. And they wouldn't hesitate to do it.
They didn't hesitate a bit.
Now, do you see here? It says that Robert Schuller asked, and he said, it's time for Protestants to go to the shepherd, the Pope, and say, what do we have to come home? Now, what do you think the faithful martyrs, if they could speak, they gave their lives.
I know.
No,
And it says, it is, and it is apostasy that led the early church to seek the aid of the civil government. And this prepared the way, get the picture now, this prepared the way for the development of the what? The beast. So apostasy in the church will prepare the way for the what?
Image
Breed.
to the beast.
Image of the beast.
Seeing
And
it plain as day.
it's working today.
Seeing it plain as
That-
day.
That statement, that last statement,
of the Catholic Church.
so
the Trinity.
apostasy in the
That's
church,
right.
what many people don't see, and I have statements to back it up. She's talking about the Adventist church.
Sure, we looking at the remnant church.
Yeah.
And you know that this is apostasy in the church.
The church.
Not the church in apostasy. What they said, well, it's not, when we look at Babylon, it's not Babylon.
I have
we
statements
got,
where she called the church Babylon.
yeah, but here I'm speaking of, God have a nuclear, he have a group. Just like when
Remnant,
Jesus
yes.
came and he had the
Remnant of
disciples and he had the group that out of the leaders and all, he got a people now.
Yes, yes.
And that's what I'll be focusing on.
Mhm.
So now let me say something here, because I do not want you to miss this point. You see where it says that it was apostasy that led the early church to seek the aid of the civil government. That's the state. And this prepared the way for the development of the papacy, the beast. So apostasy in the church will prepare the way for the image of the beast.
And it
Now-
already has.
Amen.
And
Apostasy, he said, is
Well,
already
you-
paved the way into the
Back
church.
in 1965, I believe it was, the Seventh-day Adventists joined the group of churches,
yeah,
the
National
League of
Council.
Churches, which all believed in the Trinity.
yeah, this was,
And our early ancestors, the ones that started the church,
right.
never believed in the Trinity.
And see, we have the Vatican II Council that was going on during that time.
They took
1962.
all of their stuff comes from the Trinity.
And you'll find it goes right on down. And so get the picture now, because I want you to be prepared for the image of the beast. What we're trying to do is because the image of the beast is being formed now. So here, notice what it says that, so apostasy in the church will prepare the way for the image of the beast. Now, I want to make it very plain at this moment. The image of the beast, there has to be church and state, civil and religious. That's what the harlot, the mother of harlots, She riding on the beast. This is the church. She controlling the beast that she rides on.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, going back to Christ's day, when Jesus was before Pilate, remember, the civil powers were Pilate, right? The church was out there
Yes.
crying, crucify him,
Yes.
crucify
Yes,
him.
that's right.
Pilate said, what evil has he done? But they still said, crucify him. Here, Pilate sent Christ back to when they had the court that night. Remember how they examined it? They had a mock trial.
Yeah.
And you know, Pilate and Herod was the bitter enemies, right? At first. They were bitter enemies, but once Pilate did that, recognized him, then that made him, you know, respect Pilate then, and then he sent Jesus back to Pilate. They became the best of friends then, and they began to work together. Now,
Yeah.
that's church and state,
State. Yeah.
the leaders. Now, when they were saying, crucify him, but Pilate didn't want to do it at first.
Yeah, he wanted to wash his hands.
He know what his wife had told him,
Yeah.
thing,
Did not
but
have
it
any
ended
business
up,
then.
finally, he washed his hands, but he did not clean them. It wasn't clean because
He was still
then you'll
part
find
of
that he says that the church, and there was demons out there. They was the one who got things going
Yeah.
and roaring and saying crucify him. And then the church, after
Ask
Pilate
for
turned
Barabbas.
decided to go on and turn them over for the soldier to strip him and
the Pharisees.
yeah,
and
all the things that they did
Sadducees.
to him going to the cross.
They were out there too.
That was the civil powers obeying the church. And when they got to the cross, what power that thrust the spear in his side?
Civil.
That was the
Civil
civil power. That was the Romans. What power there was standing at the tomb, sealed the tomb? That was the civil power.
Yes.
That was the state. And he said that, well, he said that after 3 days he's going to rise, so we need to do this. And the civil power did it. They did everything that the church, you see what I'm trying to point?
Yeah.
It's the church and state working
Yes,
together. But the
right.
church was in control,
Yeah.
and they were, and so then, during the Dark Ages, during the 1260 years, that's when the church controlled the state, and the state did whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, and so you remember how one of the kings going to protect one of the guys. I'm trying to remember one of them
John
that was to
There
go
was
to.
a Protestant.
Are you thinking about Huss and
Yes,
Sigismund?
yes,
Huss.
Huss.
There was
And they had to. They were going to excommunicate him.
Protestant and a Catholic wanting to get married too, and the Pope says no way.
But now they trying to forgive those who have received abortions and different things.
There
they
wasn't forgiveness
wouldn't do it
from the
before.
Protestants, and make them look like the good guys.
Right. So now we have to. We need not to be deceived. Get the picture now. You understand what I'm trying to bring out
They're just
about the
as-
image of the beast.
They're just as bad as they were back then.
Yeah, they never change. But you see that the image of the beast, that's union of church and state. So now, this country, remember the 200 beast, the beast that came up out of the earth? He had 2 horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon.
America.
We had Christian principles.
Yeah.
But the 2 powers in this country, the 2 horns represent power, right? That's church and state, civil and religious. Yet it will make an image to the beast.
Yes.
And so watch how we going now, because this is the United States.
The Catholic Church caused America to change some of the laws about abortion and other issues.
Yeah, it's got.
Yeah. And so the church now is I want you to see what the church is doing now from the instructions of the Catholic. but just get the picture now. I'm going to be closing out in just a little bit. Watch this now. It says, we have enough votes to run the country, and when the people say we have had enough, we are going to take over the country. Pat Robertson said this.
He tried to run for
700
president.
Club. And so it says they've been sitting waiting on power. They want power. They said they're going to make this a Christian nation again. This was not a Christian nation. They had Christian principles, but this was not a Christian nation. We have church and state, civil and religious. Now, when the leaders, the religious leaders saying that when we get enough vote, we're going to take over the country, they waiting. Jesus says, my kingdom is not of this world.
That's right.
And we got work to do here, and we're not here to be trying to take over. So notice this, if you Christians ever get organized, there is no piece of legislation, if you Christians ever get organized, there is no piece of legislation, piece of legislation in the United States that you couldn't get passed. That's Senator John Warner. He was the U.S. Senator of Armed Forces Committee. When religion is mixed with what government? With what government? Civil government. It means much to Seventh-day Adventists. A union of church and state means a recognition of a spiritual Sabbath and a failure to respect the conscientious observance of the Sabbath of the fourth commandment. In order for the United States to form an image to the image of the beast, the religious powers must so control the civil government that the authority of the state will also be employed by the church to accomplish her own ends. Now I taken this article from the USA Today's paper, but it's a whole page. I just taken this only for this message. It says why Catholicism is good for America.
Oh my word.
Why Catholicism is good for America.
Oh, read.
And now the paper visit when President Bush, when he came here in 2008, our presidents now have started going out to Andrews Air Force Base to meet the Pope. He never go out to meet them.
Never
I
did.
know.
Never did it
But
until
he
Bush
goes,
did it.
they goes out to meet him because ever since President Reagan, they all, even Bush got in trouble with the Catholic Church when he was trying to become president. He was out, he was campaigning. He went to Bob Jones University, and that's when he says he spoke there, and the Catholic Church got so upset with him because Bob Jones University is one of the ones still saying that the Catholic Church is the beast. And so when they found out that Bush had went to the Bob Jones University, Bush had to write a letter to John O'Connor and apologize for that.
Oh my word.
And so that's what happened. And then when they go to visit the Pope,
I know
they
it.
always wear black,
Yeah.
showing submission and all. And
Wow,
this is their
yeah.
attire.
They wear black.
So
That
that's what
our
that's all
leaders
about.
like the
You wear
president
the black because he's
and
wearing white.
when their wives and stuff, when they go over to Rome, and the wives, they have to veil their heads and then face, and then they wear the black. And see, the white, he shows he is in superior. And so
When he passed away, the flags were half mast,
I think we need to
and
go
all the presidents
Yes.
that was alive at that time were there.
they was round.
bowed down as he
we authority.
went by,
I got
which
I know.
never has happened before.
Yeah, I got some pictures of him. When he was laying the state, and they all bow, all of the president. Now, look, you see where we done got to, dealing with the church and state forming an image. That's the way the image of the beast is formed, because that's what the Catholic Church, how the Catholic Church functioned
Yeah.
all these years. And when someone look at me and says, "You look just I mean, your son looked just like you. He's a split image of you. And that's what they're looking at, the image of the beast, just like the Catholic Church,
Yeah.
because we depend on the church to the state to enforce the documents and their decrees and all. Now watch this now, please. You could keep it in your mind, but watch this, because I had this one underlined, so you'll see how it lead up to the other one. It says here, Protestantism shall give the hand of fellowship to the Roman power. That comes first. We're going to
Hand of
see
fellowship.
what official has taken place since 2004. And I want you to see official since then. So that had to come first.
Yeah, forgive us, we've changed and we're good, and that's what the Catholics were telling the Protestants.
Yeah. And so here I want you to follow me now, because Protestantism shall give the hand of fellowship to the Roman power. That comes first. It says then, that's next now. Then there will be a law against the Sabbath of God's creation. So we're looking for that to come any time after this completion is taking place now. And then when the National Sunday Law is passed, it will be too late. Get the picture now, because it's going to be too late to stay on in the large cities. It will be an emergency flight from the large cities then. So what's taking place now is a long time. Been a long time coming. But as soon as they enforce this, that is just like the Romans when they surrounded Jerusalem. They had to go. They had to go. So here, the first one, when they give the hand of fellowship to the Roman power, then there will be a law against the Sabbath of God's creation. And after the Sabbath enforced, then it is that God will do his strange work in the earth. And so we know that that's coming next now. But the time will come when they have filled their measure of iniquity. Then it is that God will work. And that's the time when the angel of mercy is to fold her wings, never to return. And calamity after calamity will hit this country. Now, watch how we're given the hand of fellowship over. We know that they were officials with Sunday, but watch how do our nation speaks? Because remember the 200 beasts of Revelation 13 and verse 11 says that he saw the beast come up out of the earth. He had two horns like a lamb, and he did what? Spake as a dragon. Speak. How do our nation speaks?
By its laws.
By laws, legislation. And here, the law, the highest court in our land is the Supreme Court, right? And then you have the Senate, and we have the three branches here. So notice this now, what has taken place, and watch how the Catholic Church has taken over now, and our people look like, oh, well, nothing, not too bad. It says, it was in 2005, that was 2005, it says Alito would form Catholic majority. Putting Judge Alito on the Supreme Court could mark a religious milestone. If Alito is confirmed, the High Court will have a Roman Catholic majority for the first time in its nation's history. Alito would give the 9-member court a total of 5 Catholics. When this taking place, just think that the newspaper was even printing this up. And so what about us? We're supposed to be keeping up with this. But this came directly from the newspaper. And now, when you have 9-member court, if you have 4-4 on the bench, they vote on something, and 4 and 4 against, you need a tiebreaker, right? And you need a swing voter, someone that will go to, one way or the other.
Who is the one they're trying to get voted in there now?
Well, they have voted Gosa in, but here he's placing Scalia.
Is he Catholic?
No,
They already had Catholic.
They said, we already still have 5 Catholics. That was 6 Roman Catholics, so it doesn't matter now, even though they said that he's more Catholic than some of the others. So here it says that this made 5 Roman Catholic. Now, watch this. It says, that was in 2005. It tells us a bit about how Catholics experiences in America has gone from being a mistrusted minority in the 19th century to an insolent minority during much of the 20th century. Okay, only 11 of the 108 justices have served on the Supreme Court have been Catholic. And then it goes on, 3 of the nation's 17 justices have been Catholic. And only 2, they go there, the 3, you got 2 of them, that was Roger Taylor, who served from 1836 to 1864, and Judge Robert, who is the chief now, the current chief. Taylor is chiefly remembered, everybody remember him as the author of the 1857 Dred Scott decision, which declared that blacks, whether slave or free, had no rights as citizens.
He was Catholic.
This is Catholic. He was a chief justice. And now he says, why the Pope loves America. You can see why the Pope loves America now, because the majority, you have the Catholic up on the bench, and everything, the time is right now
Vice
to
President.
pass everything.
Yeah, that's right.
The last 2
Now you see, watch this now, because we were looking at 2000 to 2005 and all these things happening. Now 2007, it changed over. We got, by the 2007, you got majority of Roman Catholic on the bench.
Yeah.
And notice 2007, now this chart here that the Lord blessed me to draw out some time ago. This chart here shows history repeating itself. You got the Jews' time frame was the first 490 years of the 2300-year prophecy. You know, Daniel, here the first 490 years of this prophecy went to them. God cleaned their slate. They had been in and out of captivity, different things that happened, but God just cleaned them and started all over again as though they hadn't done anything. And He gave them a time frame, and to rebuild Jerusalem, and to restore and rebuild Jerusalem from where Nebuchadnezzar had destroyed it. We go from there down to AD 34. I'm just jumping ahead because I wasn't going to spend much time with this right this moment. But from 457 BC down to AD 34. That was 490 years. That's when they stoned Stephen, right? When they stoned Stephen,
To the Gentiles.
then the gospel went to the Gentiles. It mentioned about Paul became the apostle to the Gentiles. And so here, from there, you'll find that we went into on in the dark ages and wearing out the saints of the Most High. But when we come down to the end part here, the Lord blessed me to see that history is repeating ourselves again. Through the Protestant. God gave the Jews the message first, right?
Yes.
Now, the Protestant, the protest ones. Remember, Huss, Jerome, and all them, but Martin Luther was the one who nailed the 95 Theses to the door there in Wittenberg, and that sparked the Protestant Reformation. Mm-hmm. You count from 1517, when he did that, to the year 2007. You see here? Someone counted up fast for me. How many years is that from 1517, when the Protestant taken over, started ruling, from 1517 to the year 2007? How many years is that?
500.
Actually 490 because you got to back up. You back out the 10 years. So.
Yeah. From 1517
Right, 'cause you
to
don't
the
start
year
at 15.
2007
Okay, 2007.
490.
is how many years?
490.
400.
Exactly time that the Jews had, the Protestant has had. Now, no more Protestant was left on the bench. It became a Catholic court. And you'll see what has been put in place since then. And
Checkmate, in a way. Without this, it was definitely checkmate
Yeah.
after that.
and so here.